Hey guys, welcome back to Snoopshow. The sun is just about to set here, but it hadn't yet, so I thought it would be a really nice time to make another video for you guys. So today I want to talk about veganism. So I've been following vegans really closely lately, and I think it's really fascinating how quickly it's catching on, bigger than almost anything else in the health world right now. So I thought I would just kind of give you my take on it. At least for now, I'm just going to be talking about the nutritional and performance aspects of veganism. I'm not going to get into the ethics of it, although I have much to say about it. I'm actually kind of in the process of putting a project together that addresses that at a little bit of a deeper level. But so I want to preface this by saying that I am personally not a vegan, but like I said, I have a lot of respect for people who are, and I have my own reasons for being omnivorous at this point, but I'm just going to kind of analyze both sides, and inevitably someone is going to see this once enough people watch it, and I'm going to get some host of angry vegans below telling me that, well, you didn't think about the other side, and you're a murderous meat eater and all this stuff. Like I said, that's why I'm not going to get into the ethical part of it right now, and maybe someday I will, but for now let's just talk about the pros and cons of it from a nutritional standpoint. So I definitely like to start with the more positive things. I'll start with the pros. So choosing a plant-based diet has just a whole host of benefits in terms of maximizing your antioxidant consumption, especially polyphenols. Especially if you're smart about it and you include a variety of colors in your diet, reds, orange, yellow. So our nervous system and brain actually adapted to perceive very nutritionally dense foods as beautiful. That's why they're so colorful to us. So you hear a lot of people saying you should have a lot of color in your diet. So rather than a salad just being a bunch of iceberg lettuce with some Italian dressing on it, including really dark, rich leafy greens like spinach, kale, and then putting in all the colors of the rainbow. You could put in olives, bell peppers of all colors, avocados are really beneficial, and then putting on, rather than buying a wishbone dressing from the store, make your own. You can use apple cider vinegar, extra virgin olive oil. There's a company called Bragg that makes apple cider vinegar, which I would definitely recommend, but they also make a seasoning blend called Sprinkle. It's 24 different herbs and spices. Tastes amazing. I use it on absolutely every single meal that I have. But a lot of people don't know that spices are not just about enhancing the flavor profile. They actually have a really vast spectrum of benefits, especially when it comes to anti-inflammatory and antioxidation. So again, just like the colors thing, there's a reason that we taste these really strong and sometimes bitter flavors, is because that's our nervous system telling us, hey, this is a strong substance, not just in how you perceive it, but its effect on the body. So just how a lot of poisons are also very bitter, really strong medicines have really strong flavor profiles as well. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. So when a lot of people switch to a vegan diet right away, the reason that they have so many benefits, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that they have so many benefits right away, is that you hear people, 1, 2, or 3 months in saying they feel so great, is because they cut out all the garbage. You can't eat McDonald's anymore. You can't eat, fast food, Taco Bell, pizzas, processed nonsense, because almost none of that is vegan. It all has either some type of meat product in it, or it goes through some type of processing facility where, who knows if bovine or pork fat or other things are kind of incorporated into it. Even if you don't think of it as being a meat-based item, chances are it's probably not vegan, unless it specifically says so on the label, which good luck finding something like that. So a lot of people experience a lot of really good benefits from this because of the combination of having new living foods in their diet and also cutting out all the garbage that they were eating before. So it really does make quite a difference. There's a lot of vitamins that you have to get from plants, and fiber especially is really important. There's both soluble and insoluble types of fiber, which have various effects physically on the digestive system, but also in terms of feeding the good digestive bacteria that you have in the end of your intestinal tract. So there's a certain type of fiber actually that doesn't break down in your stomach. It doesn't break down until it gets to those bacteria, and they break it down into what are called short-chain fatty acids, which is what they thrive on. So when you have good bacteria in your digestive system and you feed it, it multiplies and it produces all sorts of neurotransmitters and hormones, and I could make a whole series of videos just on that. If you're interested in the gut microbiome, I really suggest that you research it, because it's kind of it's kind of one of the leading things right now in the health and medical world, in terms of cutting edge ways to solve all sorts of disease, heart disease, especially autism, rheumatoid arthritis, cancer, digestive issues. I mean, almost anything you can possibly think of has some relation to the gut microbiome and the bacteria that live there. So, let's see, other benefits of a vegan diet. I feel bad because now I can't come up with any more. Well, one thing is that changing your eating habits in any way, no matter what diet you're subscribing to, or no matter what change you're making, is going to make you more aware of what you're putting in your body. And I think no matter what diet you subscribe to, that's one of the biggest benefits to all of them, is that you're consciously eating. You're not just putting things in your mouth to numb or silence your body's craving for more calories. There's a hormone called ghrelin. That's what makes you hungry, and a lot of people just eat to silence that. It's get the food in, and continue on with your day. Until 3 hours later when you're hungry again, because just because you're eating doesn't mean your body is going to be satisfied. You're going to keep being hungry until you get the nutrition that your body needs. And if you eat a huge meal and there's no nutritional value in it, you're going to be hungry an hour later. That's why if you go out and eat a big thing of, fast Chinese food from Lucky Wok or something, you'll probably stuff your face, and 45 minutes later you're gonna be like, oh man, like, why am I so hungry again? I guess I better go eat the leftovers that I had because I got the 3 entree combo for $5 on my lunch break. So the reason that's happening is because there's no nutrition in there. It's bad oils. I guess there's some rice, so you're getting some starch from the calorie, but even that, there's quite a bit of controversy on if starch and high carbohydrate diets are good. So that's the thing with veganism, is that it's usually a very high carbohydrate based system, which a lot of people claim to thrive on. I personally think that it could be dangerous, because when you're consuming that much carbohydrate, and especially that much sugar, which a lot of the fruitarians are a specific type of vegan who only eat fruit, which when I was younger I probably would have been all about that, because I've always loved fruit, but now I've kind of eased back on it a little bit because I'm really concerned about insulin spikes. And when you're eating sugar all day, you hear about that insulin roller coaster that people talk about from eating too much carbohydrate. So basically you eat some fruit in the morning, you get this huge insulin spike, and then it drops off again when you absorb all the sugar, and so you get hungry, so you eat more fruit and it spikes up again. So your whole day is like this, and that really is taxing on the pancreas, and that actually, you wouldn't think about it because you're eating fruit, but that actually can lead to higher cholesterol levels because of how much sugar you're consuming. Your body doesn't know what to do with that sugar, and so it can convert it to things like fat and cholesterol because it doesn't know what else to do with it. You can't burn it all. If you were running if you were running continuously all day long, many miles, then you might have that need for continuous sugar, and you might be able to burn it. But for most people going about their everyday life, even people who are physically active and exercising every day, eating strictly carbohydrate is really, in my opinion, something you want to be really careful with. So I guess this is kind of a nice segue into the other side of the vegan diet that you really don't hear much about for some reason. You get all these documentaries and testimonials and people going crazy all over Facebook and YouTube and everything. They're all parading the benefits, and there are benefits for sure, but you have to look at the other side, and the other side is this. There are a lot of nutrients that are, in my opinion, essential to flourishing as a human being, as a biological, living, breathing vessel and collection of trillions of tiny cells with their own individual needs. These nutrients simply can't be found in the plant world, and I guarantee you, once enough people see this, there's gonna be comments at the bottom of this saying, well, technically. And I would, please, if you have something to say, please say it, and I really would love to discuss this. This isn't a hate video. I'm actually been considering, I've been so fascinated by this vegan thing lately, but I've been considering giving it a try, just maybe for a month or so, just to see how I feel. So anyway, things like omega-3 fatty acids, these specifically DHA, are essential to neural health and especially brain health. The majority of your brain, I shouldn't say the majority, a very large proportion of your brain is made out of DHA, a really specific omega-3 that is plentiful in the animal kingdom, especially from fish. You can also get it though from algae. So if you're planning on going vegan, don't skip out on the omega-3s. Try to find an algae form of it. that's acceptable for you, both ethically, nutritionally, financially, whatever it is, because you need those for a healthy brain. So there's a lot of things that are really concentrated in meats, especially red meats and wild game especially. These things include B vitamins, fermented forms of fat-soluble vitamins, specifically A, D3, and K2. So a lot of these exist in the plant kingdom. For a lot of people know carrots, loaded with vitamin A. Mushrooms, which technically aren't plants, they're actually more genetically similar to animals than plants, but that's a whole other thing. D2, you can get it, so you might be like, oh, I'm getting plenty of vitamin D2. I just put a bunch of mushrooms in my salad. Well, vitamin D2 is actually not anywhere near as absorbable as D3. Obviously, none of those are going to be as good as going out into the sun, which you should do as much as you possibly can because it's essential. And then K2 is another perfect one. I've talked about this in other videos for sure because I'm a big fan of K2. There's tons of vitamin K. If you look on a bag of spinach or kale or something from Trader Joe's, it'll say like 300% vitamin K or something like that. And you'd be like, oh, cool, like I don't know what vitamin K does, but I'm getting a ton of it. Well, not really, because the type that you need is vitamin K2, and that only comes from being fermented. We don't have the crazy complex digestive system that a cow has because they're designed to flourish on grass. If we were designed to flourish on grass, we would have a very different digestive system that would look a lot similar to a cow's, but we don't, because our digestive systems are really good at extracting concentrated pre-fermented versions of nutrients that we can find from the animal kingdom, whether it's in fish or wild game or happy, well-fed, not tortured or inhumanely slaughtered, pasture-raised pork, chicken, whatever it may be. I see the ethical perspective, and I certainly wish to reduce suffering as much as humanly possible. But again, today we're just talking about performance and health. So another thing is protein. This is a little bit more debatable. A lot of vegans are they just want to be vegan. They're not even necessarily super active. They're not trying to maintain any type of muscle mass by any means. But protein is a big one, and it is harder to get on a vegan diet, but it is possible. Things like beans, oats, kashi seeds, mung beans are actually pretty high as well. There's a lot of grains that are pretty high in protein, and if you eat enough of them, you'll get adequate amounts. You might have a little bit harder of a time putting on mass. But there are now that veganism is getting so popular, the cool thing about it is that there's a lot of different organic companies that have made completely vegan approved, clean, organic, plant-based proteins, and they actually do have a pretty impressive amino acid profile. Things like, hemp, soy, chia, pumpkin seed, amaranth. Those are some of the big ones, and you can get sprouted forms of those, which means they have all these living bioactive enzymes, which can be really, really beneficial for you. So I'm consuming in my daily protein smoothies right now. I've been experimenting with a plant protein made by Vega, and it has a really high protein yield per serving. It's got all sorts of branched chain amino acids in it, glutamine as well, and it even has some probiotics in there. So check that out, Vega. It's really good stuff. It doesn't taste too sandy or some of the plant proteins out there. You got to be careful because there's some nasty ones. But most of them now, especially Garden of Life and Vega, those are really, really good companies that I definitely would advocate you trying. So that's pretty much all I have to say in terms of the advantages and disadvantages. There's a few things to look out for that I forgot to mention in terms of if you're eating only plants, and that a lot of people really don't think of. And this is actually, at least just mentally, just to think about this is good for your mind, because probably a lot of people don't think about this. So animals can escape you, right? Nothing in this world wants to be dead. Nothing wants to be killed. I think we can all agree on that, no matter what your diet is. But obviously animals have all sorts of survival mechanisms, whether it's running away or fighting or blending in, camouflage, things like that. But plants can't move. So some people just assume, oh, well, they must not have consciousness. They must not mind if they get killed. Well, if they didn't mind if they got killed, then they would have been wiped out long ago, at least the specific species that didn't care about that. So what you'll find is that certain plants, not all of them, but certain plants have what are called anti-nutrients. This is really big in the paleo community in terms of avoiding plants that have these. Things like goitrogens, which you find in some like Brussels sprouts and cruciferous vegetables and stuff like that, which do have a lot of nutrients in them, which is why it's really good to cook them, because you can break down the goitrogens, which can be irritating to the digestive system, so that you can absorb the nutrients. But there's also things called oxalates, like kale. So kale is hailed as one of the glorious, wonderful superfoods, and it totally is. It's wonderful. It's really dark. It's loaded with chlorophyll. I consume it almost every single day, but never raw, ever, because what kale is really high in is something called oxalic acid. And so what happened is, get in your evolutionary mind for a second and think back to a time when, we'll use kale as the case study here. So some type of pre-kale vegetable that may or may not exist anymore. Let's say it's existing in a forest, and all of a sudden a bunch of ladybugs come in, and the ladybugs are like, ooh, kale, nutrients, chlorophyll, vitamin K1. Well, we don't need K2. We're just going to eat K1 all day. That's fine. And so the ladybugs start munching on the kale. They munch, and they munch, and they munch, and they eat all the kale away. But a couple of them survive, and the ones that survived were the ones that evolved quickly enough to develop a chemical called oxalic acid, which I know I just mentioned. And what it is it's a mild neurotoxin. So you eat it, and it also, at least for some people, irritates their digestive systems as well. When I was really into raw salads and I was eating a lot of raw kale, there were a lot of other factors for why this was happening at the time, but I had a lot of digestive issues. And another reason was because I was eating way too many Brazil nuts at the time, so I think I was pretty deep into the selenium toxicity. Be careful if you ever eat Brazil nuts. They're good for you, but don't eat more than a couple of them a day, or you'll have some pretty serious issues. So always cook your kale, steam your kale. Do your research. If you're going to be a vegan, go for it, but make sure you look up individual plants have individual properties, and eating them raw might not always be the best way to go. So, and it's a slippery slope, because some things break down when you cook them, things that you don't want to break down. So it might be better to eat those things raw. Vitamin C is a good example of that, but there's also the anti-nutrients that you have to worry about, and also lectins is a huge one. So lectins exist in peanuts, a lot of different beans and grains. Gluten is actually a lectin. And so some people aren't lectin sensitive. They have a good healthy mix of enzymes and digestive bacteria throughout their intestines that can break these things down without any harm. But for a lot of people, it causes digestive inflammation on a small or large scale. So chances are some of you guys are probably sensitive to these and don't even know it. So you might eat peanuts and things like bread and beans, and you might occasionally get a stomach ache and be like, oh, I don't feel so good, but it must just been a bad batch or something like that. It probably wasn't a bad batch. You're probably sensitive. I'm really sensitive to lectins, and this is kind of a new thing I've learned about within the past 6 months or so, and since I've been avoiding them, I've been feeling a lot better. And so there are ways of breaking down lectins. Pressure cooking is a really good one. So if I ever have beans or any type of grain at all, even oats or rice, even rice has lectins if it's not white rice, if it still has the shell on it, like brown rice. Cook it in a pressure cooker if you're going to have it, because it'll break down those lectins, so you'll be able to absorb the caloric energy of the food without irritating your digestive tract, which is going to lead to inflammation. It's going to lead to weight gain. It's going to throw off your hormones, your energy levels, your sleep. Some people are so sensitive to lectins that they can have a bite of like a nightshade, a nightshade is a group of plants that has potatoes, tomatoes. Some people are sensitive enough where they'll have a bite of raw potato and they'll get like back pain and arthritis and joint pain and all sorts of weird stuff. And it's like most people are never going to be like, oh, I had a potato yesterday, so that's why I'm feeling so crappy today. You're probably just not going to think of it. So I advise you do as much research as possible before you put anything in your mouth. But that's enough about that. So that's kind of my thing on the vegan situation. I'm really interested in it. I'm definitely probably going to give it a try at some point, but I'd really like to hear what you guys think about it, because I know at least I live down in Georgia right now, for now, and whenever someone finds out that I'm into health and nutrition, they're like, "Oh, are you a vegan? Are you vegetarian?" Like they equate that as with health. Which it can be for sure, obviously, but it's not the only way to go. And so I'd really like to hear what you guys think about this. And if you have any questions about it, I've been researching it quite a bit, so I do have a fairly good idea of what the whole thing is all about. But I'm always learning, and I don't claim to have all the answers by any means. Ultimately, you guys you guys out there have way more answers collectively than I could ever come up with, and that's why we do this. That's why you're on YouTube right now. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, check out my other videos if you like this. This is still kind of a new thing, so let me know if you have any advice, any tips, especially any questions, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Hey, really quickly, I forgot to mention this in the first filming of the video. If you're interested in becoming a vegan or you just want to learn more about it, there's a dude who's got a really sweet YouTube channel that I've been checking out. He's a really honest, transparent, kind, loving dude, lives up in Canada. He's just seems to really have embraced the vegan lifestyle, but without being super in your face about it. Like, you gotta be vegan. Why aren't you? What? He's not like that. He's a really cool dude. So I really encourage you to check out his channel. His name is Derek Simnet, and his channel is called Simnet Nutrition. I'm gonna leave a link for it right under this, right at the bottom in the little section of links. So check it out, whether you're considering going vegan or not, because he has a really good clean take on it, and he could explain it way better than I can. So that's it. Thanks again for watching. I'll talk to you later.